Hello, this is Booksellets and I am Prometheus. Bit of a different setup today. We're going to be talking about, well, technically not, but we're going to be quickly referencing the engineering drawing book by Thomas and French, I believe. This particular one, I believe, is a 1935 edition. Now the reason why is because as part of learning about the tools of drafting, one must also learn how to properly use said tools of drafting, and as a result, the proper technique. And so as part of this learning of the different problems, one must perform different geometric patterns as a test. I would definitely, hang on, let me see if that one's, I would definitely not want to have to do that one. That one looks like it would take a while. We're not doing that one today. We will be doing one of my own design. Moving that out of the way and getting the camera set back up. There. Now, the real star of the show. This is a recent acquire, thank you, Ariel. A Eugene Deitzigen Co. of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco, a universal set drafting kit. Now, what is the point of all this? Well, it started, we'll get back to this, with a simple desire. I wanted to make one line of a certain length, and then I wished to bifurcate it with two circles. It seemed like a simple enough question. Why was it so hard for me to ask that I would make a line, take another set of compasses, go like this, spin, spin, and have it meet in the middle? That was particularly difficult, and this is something that has driven me up the wall for many, many years at this point. Because you want to make nice drawings. It's not nice when the lines don't match up. It just bugs you. It doesn't look pretty. It looks unprofessional. And so, you want to be better. So what do? You desperately try to hold this and prevent it from wobbling around. You realize that the blades will twist by quite a bit. You then realize that you don't actually know what a 2mm lead is, and you don't have any more. And so you buy something like this, which we've probably all touched in school. And then you realize that it wasn't much better, and then eventually you learn how to properly use the device. We've all had that happen. I'm going to get us some light. Oh. Blinding. So why is it? Why is it that we cannot have a straight line and bifurcate it with two circles? I don't know. I don't know why that's a thing. But now that I have this older set of drafting tools, I can definitely say that the quality has gone down, and I'm a little bit confused as to why. Because it also seems paradoxically more complicated to make the modern tooling than it did to make one of these older sets, which I'm going to get back to you once I get to a better spot on this. When I actually start using it, because I'm running out of things to say. This is another problem that has plagued my drawing for a while, is using a square that is not square, which happens a lot more often than you would think it would. Thankfully, this book does mention about checking for that, so you can correct for it a little bit, which is very helpful. Very helpful indeed. Also helps when you put the line in the right spot. Okay. Then we are going to cut these in half. Okay, that should be good to start with, and we'll finish out the rest in a second. So, this set. Now, when you first pick up something like this, and you look at it like this, there's not a whole lot of difference. It looks fairly similar. This one maybe a little bit better because it has the solid metal frame. But all in all, it has roughly the same amount of screws. Actually, this one's missing one. It should be one right there, which means it's a little less accurate. That will be a problem in a little bit, but this joint right here is held in tension by a spring, which I'm not sure if you can tell. That spring right there. And it holds it relatively well, but then you pull it apart and you're like, well, that's weird. And then it fixes itself. I'm not exactly sure how this joint works. It's a joint that was mentioned in the... You can find a catalog for Eugene Deitzegen Company for these types of joints, and I forget what it's called. But I do find it interesting that this particular joint, from who knows how old, has greater tolerance, not greater tolerances, what's the correct term? Less slosh in its mechanism than this one, which I'm not sure if you can tell. Let me see if I can get... has gearing cut into it, which helps facilitate the motion. Now, how gearing cutting on this metal is simpler than having a spring and stamping or hot forging this. Well, I guess hot forging is an expensive process, but considering how long it will last, I would assume that there would at least be someone still doing it in a reasonable supply. And so, you can barely see what we're doing over here. We got a square with a diamond on it. There we go, that's a little bit better. And you've been watching me for the last few minutes doing nothing. I'm sorry. So carefully set it to the center. Very close to the center anyway. I'm just gonna set this. The mechanism's still a little old. Tried giving it a clean, but... Alright. A little wide. See if we can't fix that on the next one. Dang, that does not look good. That's better. I think these wobblings are the problem with the fact that it's missing a screw, although I could be wrong. Need to restore that. Alright, there, that's a perfect example of what bugs me. And that too. Wow, let's see, what the heck? That little movement, I'll make sure you can tell. That's what's getting you. Any amount of slosh in the mechanism, you get that. And you gotta erase. And this is the frustration. Now, something of note that I would like to mention is that, while I couldn't exactly find it, I did look for something very similar to this in the catalog, which in the year 1900 was worth $1.90 something, if I remember correctly, which translates roughly to $72 in today's money, which I find absolutely absurd. I'm going to bring up an older one of these later on, and we'll discuss the manufacturing that I think went into the production of those. Now, where were we? Yes. Trying that again. That'll do. That'll do. So, this was supposedly made out of a German steel, or not German steel, German silver. German silver and English spring steel was what I could find is what this was made out of, which is apparently a nickel, copper, and zinc alloy, with maybe a bit of lead and tin in it. Kind of like pewter, I guess. But I couldn't find what percentage of lead and tin, which is interesting. All in all, they're just, you pick them up and they're light, but they feel stiff, except for, well, that part, but it's missing a screw there. It's supposed to be a little notch and a screw. You can see the cutout for the wheel, a little notch there. I've tried scavenging some other parts of the thing, of the set, to make it work, but I haven't figured it out yet. So now that we have these lines together, we're just going to zip cross. A fun fact of doing this is that, despite the fact that this line should, we've made 2 inch squares, this is now a hypotenuse, and so it's larger than 2 inches, but the size that we create via the radius has come back to 2 inches. Just fun geometry. Now, in normal drafting, you would have the paper marked down, so it wouldn't be able to move, and you would have some sort of device that would move this for you. I don't know how the type is skilled to properly do that, so I have left the paper free for me to manipulate to my desire. This is surprisingly more difficult to do this while recording than just freehand for fun. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but that's the way of things, is it not? A bit rambly this time, just enjoying a nice bit of, I guess, this is old school Zentangle. And I thought, that's interesting. I'm still around. One of those things you learn about, you know, don't know when you're going to need to use it, but okay. Actually, let's bring in a modern comparable set. This is the closest thing that I could find to compare to something of similar type to this. Now, if you start looking up compasses, especially ones that are designed to hold pencils, which was very important for me for a very long time, as I didn't know what 2mm lead was or where to get it in vast quantities. So having something like this was absolutely essential so I could shove pens and pencils and things into my compass. This is a wonderful little spring compass. Metal's good. Doesn't feel like pot metal, like those gold compasses you can find for 10 bucks on Lowe's and Amazon. And it's just very nicely made for what it is. It has a plastic joint for the screw thread, I think, as far as I can tell. What I find interesting is that these little thumb tacks that you see for this one is pretty much identical to the thumbtacks in this older set. I wish I knew how old it was, but I just don't. Alright, so let me double check to make sure you've actually been watching what we've been doing. You got most of it. A little hard. That gets you a little better. Okay, so if you take that and we put it, it will hit this side. Will it hit this side? Yes. Will it hit this side? Oh, look at that. Look at that. Came short. And then this side, and it's a little short on this side. Well, I hope you can see. Oh, you can't see. All right. Zooming in, we set it to a radius from the center to the edge, and on this side it hit. On this top one, it also hit, although it's kind of hard to see. And then on the very opposite side, oh, look at that. See that right there? Came up short. Doesn't quite reach it there, but when we put it in the center again, it matches quite well there. Now, why does it do this? Why is it that in the modern 21st century, even when buying all metal construction here, of what is not pot metal, I cannot make a circle with a set radius that will meet on two sides. I think it's... I have no idea what to think. I'm interested in your ideas, actually. What are your thoughts on this? Why is it that the metal compasses today just don't seem to have the same accuracy as compasses of old? Case in point, let's see how this beauty holds up. Now, we had a bit of trouble with it earlier, so let's see if it can redeem itself. Okay, no, kind of came on short there. Well, did the exact same thing as the other one. Interesting. Apparently, I'm just insane. What's going on here? It would appear. That's where we're getting our error. This circle is a 16th off in diameter, which is throwing off our numbers up here. And that's why that's like that. Okay, well, only one thing to do. Let's fudge it a little bit. Just don't tell anybody about this. Okay, yeah, there's no saving that. That bugs me. What to do? Wait a minute, that doesn't go there. Now we can break out some fun stuff. And by fun stuff, I mean an odd pen. A ruling pen. Now these are still made. These are still made today. I don't have a modern one to compare it to. I'm going to set this aside real quick. Because one never tests on the piece of paper you're supposed to be using it on. And considering the amount of errors we've already had in that one, probably for the best. Apparently some artists use watercolors and brush them on. Brush the watercolors onto the pen. I have no idea how they do that. The basic idea is take your pen, take your ruler, take your pen, double check to make sure we're in decent focus here, and recording, and boom. Just simple thing. Of interesting note, this thumb screw here allows you to set a variety of thicknesses to the ruler pen, which makes it very versatile. Basically designed to act as a difference between these technical pens you can get today, which is kind of nice. Just one pen to rule them all or something like that. That being said, it's not probably good at any of those individual ones, but hey, you're only gonna have one pen. Might as well have it do everything you need to do, right? Okay, how many lines everywhere. I always forget this one line at the bottom here. This is one issue you don't have all those new fancy modern technical inks. That is it for the inking pen. Now, of interesting note, when I started cleaning this pen, there was actually still ink in it, which is not what's supposed to happen. So I'm kind of curious as to whether or not this was a student's ink pen, and they just didn't clean it, maintain it, or somebody was busy and just never touched it again after they picked it up now. We will never know. But it's interesting to think about. Not sure if that's how you're supposed to clean it, but that's how I've been doing it. Okay. Now, you might be asking, how are we going to ink the circles? That's a good question. In modern days, we would take this, and we'd place one of our Technic pens into this little doohickey. I forget what it's called. Barely fits. But, now, this is not how we do things in 1900 or 1935. We have ruling attachments, which is just one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. How they actually made these bowstring attachments, because this is all one piece of metal as far as I can tell. It doesn't look like there's a seam or anything was soldered onto it, but I could be wrong. It's still crazy to look at it and realize how tiny some of this stuff gets. Alright. So now the question is, will it hold enough stiffness for me to perform what I want it to? There is the big question. Will it hold up? Maybe. Maybe not. We'll give it a whirl. Check back in on you in a little bit. Actually, let's... Alright, we'll try you first. Yeah, you can definitely see the slosh from the lack of a hairspring there. It's a bit of a shame. What are you going to do? That is not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to hold it by the little lead screw up here, but due to the situation that we're in, whew, that was... so close. I mean... Oh, that's really good. Why do you want to work like that? This is another example of just the skill that had to go into all those technical drawings before the year of AutoCAD or whatever it's called. Still neat to see the history. Hey, you didn't screw it up that bad. Last one. Not running. Now, I'm not sure, but I think the reason why we're having so many issues is because I'm not using the tool right. I'm supposed to be doing it like that. Probably would have been helpful if I did doing that from the start. Yeah, that was definitely how you're supposed to use the tool. Definitely shows the inadequacy of technique, which I think is probably the point of those exercises. But let's talk about the manufacturer in the quick 2 minutes that we have. Unfortunately, one of the empty spots that we have here is not because it didn't have it, unlike some of the others, but because of a destruction of a device. Hairspring broke. Sad day. And we can see how it was held together and how these two main parts were made. This one was identical to this one. And there's really not much to it. Just coming really close here. Like, this is probably the most complicated part, as it was, oh no, not this one. This one is one of the more complicated parts because it has these little knobs on the side here, lead screw, and then cut out for a needle, which if you look closely at these needles, you can see they have a step to them, which is amazing. It's just interesting that all this was made out of stamped metals. Where are we? The hold. And this is just twisted together to hold the lead. Well, I think I'm about to run out of time. That makes 40 minutes, which is way too long. So hopefully in the last 10 seconds, a shot. And this is Booksellets. Thank you for watching.